I'm a long-time collaborator with the autonomous cultural center called Metelkova City in Ljubljana. Hopefully English is for everybody understandable.
Ja.
Mein Deutsch ist sehr schlecht.
Ja, das geht schon.
Yeah. And well, around this team, I know we can speak hours and hours, and some things are really interested. I have also some interesting material with me, so hopefully you will enjoy the story. And thanks for inviting me. Besides this snobbish event yesterday, it's also good to be at home at last. And yeah, we have quite a lot of similarities in spaces in Metelkova to Domak colony, or whatever it is called. I've heard many expressions, but also some differences. We are also from the beginning of the 90s in the old military barracks that were built in the 90s of 19th century for the Austro-Hungarian army, and survived both Yugoslav armies, the old one before Second World War and the so-called People's Army of Yugoslavia, till it left in October 1991 after the short war for so-called independence of fake Banana Republic of Slovenia. And it's the story began in the 80s, and maybe it's nice to tell some words about the 80s in Ljubljana. 80s were very strong from the beginning on because of several activities that were at that time quite European well known. Even certain circles in Amsterdam and Berlin scene of the 80s were jealous in Ljubljana because of very nice mixture of activities and of different groups. Of course, in Ljubljana it's not special mental reason for this, but it's also the reason of strongly supported social movements from the side of Association of the Socialist Youth, and especially in the second half of the 80s because of the soft Communist Party. As probably you all know, Slovenia's situation and Yugoslavia's in general was among the softest in certain period of all the socialist countries. We could travel, we had very good, not very dogmatic schools, dentists for free, school for free, social security for free, nobody was unemployed, etc., etc. All the good things, it's hardly to believe that sometime existed. Specific situation in Ljubljana in the 80s was strongly supported even by the government. As I said, end of the 80s, Communist Party was so afraid that they were able to support even the most weird artists' things, even some post-punk or new wave records and things like this. And this bunch of people in the strong movement of Ljubljana were gathering together, so you couldn't divide anarcho-punks, there were gays on the same scene, women movement on the same scene, architects, video artists, group called Neue Slowenische Kunst, Leibach. It was all one big circle of mixed people that is also very difficult to understand today when word is also in Ljubljana very parcelized. And the only problem of Ljubljana was lack of the space for the activities. In the socialist time it was okay because main spaces, even like big cultural center, were for free, even for different kind of so-called alternative artist activities. But of course, with the fall of socialism, it began the problem how to rent this space. Ljubljana had the problems with the studios for the artists, so there were, as far as I remember, from some studies, there were no more than 15 ateliers built after the Second World War for the inhabitants of 300,000. Among those were lots of students. 10th of population of Ljubljana are students, among them lots of artists. And also, as you maybe know, Slovenia as the nation, let's say, is based on its culture. There exists nothing like big history, nothing like big war, nothing like big, okay, let's speak about Second World War. It's a different question, but it's no big historical event, so basically everything is established on culture, being high culture or lower or underworld or subculture. We were always very proud of it. In this situation, I must mention the role of the student radio of Ljubljana that is celebrating just today its 35th anniversary. Student radio of Ljubljana was established May the 9th. That means on the day of the, what is today, it's May the 9th. That means it's the day of the victory over Nazism. On that day, Communist Party of Slovenia established radio in 1969 in order to students not to have only sports but also radio, as technique should be given to students. This was very lucky mistake, because from the first night on and still nowadays this radio is totally independent. Some of the best musics in the world were here heard and are still on this student radio. And this was also very strong support in the movement. Also first days when we squatted Metelkova, there was a strong support of student radio that also put one of the studios there in the squatted area. So they were for a certain time broadcasting on 2 frequencies. The whole story began from the problem of studios, as I said, from the problem of social movement that had no space after fall of socialism and decline of all these youth clubs, from the point of Peace Institute, because Ljubljana had an incredibly strong Peace Institute that supported many political or sub-political activities through the 80s and in the 90s. And in this bunch of activities, it was the need for more space. After the People's Army of Yugoslavia left, let's say, 4 huge barracks in Ljubljana, some of them were empty for months. Some of them were demolished immediately, let's say 2. The right-wing government in the beginning of the 90s had so-called building investment lobby that started to demolish certain buildings in Ljubljana without permission. And some of our comrades informed us that also barracks on Metelkova, that was commandment for Slovenia of the Yugoslav army, huge area, they started to demolish. The place is very, very in the center. It's 5 minutes from the central railway station, so you can imagine that this place could be sold for a big, big money, for instance, for parking places or garages or something like this. So when we were informed in this September day, on the September day in '93, that they started to demolish buildings, we immediately, with the support of some clubs in Ljubljana and with the direct broadcast of Radio Student, we alarmed people around. So in the action, around 200 people went over the fence. They said to the security guy from the city council that people are not dangerous, and the area was squatted. I still remember first night talking to some friends that this is too huge for Ljubljana, because we squatted the area of around 5,000 square meters. That is 1/2 of the military barracks. The other half was already given to the state, to the Ministry of Culture. In the meantime, the Ministry for Defense changed the area for some barracks outside of Ljubljana and exchanged it with the city council, so we squatted property of the city. It's really huge. I think in the first period it was the second biggest squatted area after Christiania in Kubenhavn. It's really huge, and especially for Ljubljana, because Ljubljana is not so big city. Somehow we succeeded to control it, and immediately appeared a very big problem. It's the problem of organization. Through all the 80s we learned a lot in the squats of Germany, Netherlands, Switzerland, Denmark, how to manage it. But as probably you know, all these situations are very local or global. So on the location you need to behave in specific circumstances. That means that a couple of hours after squatting, it was no more water and electricity in the space, and it remained so half a year. On the other hand, support of public support was enormous. Also media support was enormous. It's like historical memory was still going on in the beginning of the 90s. So even main daily and prime news on the television announced that important event happened to Ljubljana, that military barracks is squatted, and let people support poor people who stayed without water and electricity. So firemen, so-called civil protection, people from all over Slovenia came bringing us food, water, aggregates, everything, so we were established like, like in the good old times. What lasted, of course, for a couple of months. Then it came the first winter. We started with the strong activities that were on all kinds of levels, from artistic point of view to social and political. Let's say it's the same as nowadays. The big problem appeared, as I stressed, in organization. One group wanted to control the space totally with a pyramidical or hierarchical organization when somebody is a boss, and then you have kinds of offices, housekeepers, cleaning boys, cleaning ladies, I don't know who, and certain people have the key. Another group was more, let's say, anarchist one. So the first group wanted to control everything, and also to control spaces that will be given to certain groups or certain individuals. This big fight lasted for almost 2 years. Almost 2 years, people, we call them sharks, needed to move away from the space that was established basically by itself. In this situation in Ljubljana, it was no need to control it strongly. It was need to control the area and to invent own local political behavior towards inside and outside. And now, after 11 years of squatting, I must say that it was one of the greatest success that sharks went away. Because afterwards, and still nowadays, Metelkova is formed, is organized like a forum, what means that nobody is a leader, everybody participates on the meeting, all the spaces are not represented there, but they have direct democratic right to say about common things, about special things, etc. Also meetings are like all the time in different space, every time led by another person, report is made also by all the time by different person, etc.
How often do you meet?
Oh,
how often do you meet?
Every 14 days.
Wow.
It's no need more because it's huge, it's 300 people, so internal meeting are then internal meeting of other spaces then depend on these spaces or individuals. From the history of this 11 years in the past to nowadays, Metelkova shaped itself even far too much. So from the totally chaotic position when even some very dangerous right-wing motorbikers were inside to nowadays, it's a long, long story. And nowadays, as I said to some friends here, we even miss some of the times when it was no tourism. Metelkova is located in the center of town, and through the years and through the popularity of Ljubljana and Slovenia, it became target for many, many journalists and tourists from all over the world. So certain times we're in a situation like it is, for instance, in Tacheles in Berlin, when we feel like in zoo that somebody is observing our work and taking pictures and giving peanuts as and on this level I must stress that not only because of the central position of the squat it's like this, but also because of the shape of its works. Despite forum, I must say that we are divided now in three groups. The whole area in the times of crisis, end of the 90s, was no more squatted. So part of it is on the very non-commercial rent with contracts with city council. They pay like €0.5 or €1 Deutschmark per square meters per month. This is 1/3 of the space. The majority is still squatted, but it means that despite we are illegal and we don't pay taxes on our music or other theater program or for the bar, and despite our economy is totally illegal, we pay water and electricity. The third variation of Metelkova is our new youth hostel. That was meant to be very risky, but 2 years ago some of the architects and visual artists who were working in the military prison that is also in the complex decided to sell their idea to the city and to the student organization. They really made a beautiful project, but they transformed it into quite capitalistic shape of trade. They transformed military prison into youth hostel that is called Celica, the cell, and they remained. This house is partly demolished and not like the other parts of Metelkova that transformed these ruins, as you will see in more alternative specific artwork. They made more fancy, more like New Age shape of youth hostel and transformed it into a building where every cell is a piece of art, where they have so-called Oriental and Western room with a cyber cafe. Oriental cafe is more like a mosque, and, but it's still so far, as we see, the third possibility, and out from the space of these three modes of functioning, we are able to be even stronger. Because A, from the forum shape of work, and B, from these three types of existing in the same area, that they somehow, from the outside, they cannot recognize who to address. And so far it was always good. As you can imagine, Ljubljana is the size of a small, not big, not even small city, and so many people know each other. So during this period we succeeded some really incredible works. Like, for instance, we succeeded to remain independent in the whole area, so that even in the case that for certain programs Metelkova is receiving and accepting money from the city council or from the Ministry of Culture, we are always the one who are telling who will renovate, who will run the program, etc. So, for instance, we succeeded to have the very, very big international craftsmen and craftswomen workshop. That was the summer camp of the collective, you know for sure, those black and white collective of Axtund Kelle that are traveling after crafts school throughout the world. And 3 years ago they stayed on Metelkova for weeks and they made really some beautiful things you will see. Now they are coming again, not so massively, and they will help us in repairing the roofs that are, some of them, very old. Second success I can remember now is really funny one. As Metelkova is also political, not only cultural and social center, you can imagine that all types of new movements from peace to so-called no global or anti-global or whatever it's called are there in the place. And once, after the very, very sad and, on the other hand, beautiful riots when Bush and Putin met in Ljubljana, the director of the Slovene police announced himself that he wants to come to Metelkova. I still remember that we had lots of meetings on this team, either to accept boss of the police coming there, but then we decided to do so. And it was actually a great success. We suffered almost 4 hours with the bastard there, but somehow we succeeded to convince him and accept some of the social workers, some of the philosophers, sociologists, that they, and also I was presented there, that we go and that we are included in the program of Police Academy of Slovenia to learn police how to behave in underground spaces. Yeah, it was kind of, yeah, good success.
Good success.
Yeah, quite okay. It was quite okay because you can imagine it's only one police academy in Slovenia and you can really make influence on one whole generation. And now we are almost free of police, or at least they know how to behave. They also know how to behave in other squats in Slovenia, so they don't see squatting position as something dangerous for them. It's really okay. And I must say that last year, after for the opening of the 10th anniversary of Metelkova, I was able to make this police story even more funny, and I asked them to. I knew somehow that the police brass band is obliged to play if it's an order. So we called to the Ministry of Internal Affairs that we would like to have police brass band for 10th anniversary. And nobody on Metelkova knew for this action. They came. There were rumors around, celebration was about to begin, people were saying, why is police here? And yeah, this was the end of the story. Well, I succeeded to be dirigent, conductor, police brass band, and they played Internationale for the celebration. Okay, now let's speak about what is actually going on in this area. I described what is the neighborhood, but that is not all, because besides central position of Metelkova, I must mention that our closest neighbors are also Minister of Culture. It's a church nearby. It's a dispenser, it's not hospital, it's kind of ambulant, which is the only methadone center for Ljubljana and environment. What means that the strong negative media campaign all those years was that on Metelkova we are all junkies, because really lots of we call them narco-clochard para-society were there. And it was also, after long meetings, we decided to be a bit more Stalinistic, and we hired our friends for security for a couple of weeks, and these people are no more allowed to go into the area because it was really annoying for daytime activities. And daytime activities are lack of Metelkova. This is our weakest point. We can discuss afterwards. Second recent, more Stalinistic action was that we closed the area because years and years, more and more, they were using it during the day as a parking space. So now only the people who work inside or our visitors are allowed to go by car or by van or truck inside. Metelkova nowadays is divided into buildings that are still called in military terms. So we have infantry building, we have stable because it was Austrian cavalry there, we have hangar, we have hunters, school. Buildings are still called in military terms, and we have 7 public spaces that go for mostly for the nightlife, from the club to concert activity. Beside this, it's a gay club called Tiffany, it's women's center called Monocle, it's a youth handicapped deprivileged club. These are people that decided theoretically and practically that they are not invalids, that are not disabled people, because they have very strong and very established theory that every person has his or her own handicap, and they have handicap like everybody else. So they don't want to be disabled persons, and they are quite successful in their activity there. Then we have 2 concert spaces called Channel Zero Gala Hala. Beside them it's the Radical bookshop and Radical Infoteca called The Elf. It's a music studio. We have a club called Gromka. It's another space called Menza pri Koritu. There are some summer spaces, as you will see on the picture. It's a beautiful summer theater. And we have, of course, some lacks. Lack is that somehow Metelkova is not a housing project. So only some visual artists live there in their ateliers. Nobody from other spaces live there. So people are going there like on a job for the night activities. But still, so far, even in the squatted area, we offer some alternative space for sleeping for our visitors there, in order not to pay for the youth hostel, or then depends if the guests need some better comfort, they go to youth hostel or even to some other spaces, because we are not very monocultural minded in the terms of what to offer. That means that Metelkova is able to offer also some contents that are from so-called even highest culture from time to time. But of course with special conditions. This is also one thing, if I speak musically, we learned from the West that so many squats were ruined because they were only beer punk, hardcore and nothing else. And this was really sad history, I think, of the many of these places throughout Europe in the 80s. So we decided, for instance, if I speak about Club Gromka, where I collaborate, to offer not only hardcore music, we can offer freely improvised music, we do a lot of free jazz, we do lots of ethno music, we can do hip-hop events, we do electronic music, we do new so-called contemporary classical music. All this also in a way that not only one type of population is there on the place. So we go on with different kinds of activities. Certain spaces are more specific ones, but so far it is good, despite the touristic problem that could be on Fridays really problematic. So many of the people who collaborate on Metelkova are avoiding Fridays because in certain moments, especially in the summer when Ljubljana is more Mediterranean than in the winter, it's a very popular place for the youth. Theoretically, we are not youth cultural center because we think it depends on your heart when you're young, not because of the generation studies. And we think it's the sociological misleading theory that it exists so-called youth culture, it exists retired people culture, it exists amateur culture. We don't want to go into this shape. For instance, in Gromka club, among 25 people that collaborate, we are from between 17 and 65 years old, what I think is very important, especially in the type of the activity when you don't want to be employed there, to wait for your pension there, but you need softly to invite other creativities, other people with fresh ideas, youngsters, to go on with the story. I think it's good to stop at this moment and maybe to show some things, and maybe then to start discussion, because, as I said, it's a long story, and for sure we need to exchange many ideas. If you're not sleepy, and maybe to have this opportunity as to start some kind of exchangement, because we can offer really spaces. We have lots of different activities. We have spaces for sleeping, kitchens, so Metelkova is quite user-friendly when you're visiting it.
User-friendly.
Yeah.